Focusing on the lives, experiences, and viewpoints of motherlode women, the show features a rotating cast of 4 women of all ages and from all walks of life. Quick, upbeat, and fast-paced with a variety of topics, this one-hour show will be aired live Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 8:30 a.m. Tune in, it's just between us.
Good morning and welcome to Just Between Us, a ladies' talk show. And sometimes we have a gentleman join us. And it's all about Amador County and what's going on in the world. I'm Susie from Volcano.
I'm Kathy from All About Real Estate.
Kathleen from Mountain Ranch.
Roberta from Pioneer.
And we want to say good morning to Martha, who is watching us. So buenos dias, Martha.
Buenos dias.
And we missed you dearly. But we know that you had a lot of paperwork to do this morning, so we'll catch up with you next week. Anyway, ladies, how about if we pick out our first 2 topics?
I'll roll the die.
Okay, Kathy, you can hand it to Kathleen.
There you go.
Alrighty. So we have number 2, your all-time favorite, and number 2 is what do you feel is one of the best books ever written?
Okay, and the next one?
Okay, and did you roll a 2 again? Oh,
Go ahead.
3. Okay, the topic is cheating. And number 3 is what would be the one exception that you would find it is more forgiving for someone to cheat?
So in other words,
Are there any circumstances?
What circumstance would you forgive?
Would you forgive if someone cheated, basically?
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, well, we're not going to cheat you out of this. We're going to give you a couple commercials and bring you right back.
Just Between Us, a spontaneous, intuitive live television show with topics that are intended to inspire, delight, educate, and encourage.
Welcome back. Thank you, Tommy. Welcome back. And Kathleen, our first topic, please.
Okay, so our first topic is your all-time favorite, and number 2 was what do you feel is one of the best books ever written?
Okay, the Bible's out. We're not going to, because that's obviously the best book ever written.
Right.
Okay.
So, besides the Bible, what do you think?
Mine was West Into the Night by Merle Markham. It was written in the 40s, and it is an incredible book about a woman who grew up in Africa.
Wow.
And she was on a farm, and her father raised racehorses. And she learned to be a bush pilot. And she played with the locals. It is an amazing book, but she's the first person that flew solo from Europe to, she ended up crashing in Nova Scotia, but she lived.
I'll be darned.
Yeah, and it's an amazing book, but it was written in the 40s.
I'll be darned.
Yeah.
Great.
Kathleen?
Yeah.
Isadora Duncan was my favorite book.
Which one?
Isadora Duncan.
Yes.
The Life of Isadora Duncan.
Yes.
And actually her autobiography. There's a couple. There's a biography out, and there's also her autobiography, and her autobiography is absolutely amazing.
What's it about?
Isadora Duncan was they called her the mother of modern dance. She actually combined.
Didn't she strangle with a scarf?
Yes, she did. She had a very dramatic life. She lost all 3 of her children. They all died.
Oh.
Right.
2 of them were drowned, and the 3rd died shortly after birth. And she was a very flamboyant, and she was raised very interesting. Her mother worked. Her father left. He had another family that the mother apparently didn't know about, and so, but she was the baby, and so she was sort of left on her own. So she started teaching children in the area how to dance. And she created this dance all her own. It was all her own, and as she got older, she started doing it in drawing rooms and salons and stuff everywhere. And she took a cattle boat, which was interesting because I was going to do this when I was 18, and before I read the book. She took a cattle boat with her family over to Europe, and they they arrived in England, and they lived in one of the parks over there until they got into hotel, because everybody stayed in hotels at that time, and then eventually a flat. But she opened a hospital for children and a school for dance, and then when the war broke out, she ended up having to come back over to the U.S., and then she went back again, and she fell in love with Italian man, and they were driving along a coastal route, and I don't remember, in his Bugatti, and she wore these long scarves, and the scarf got wrapped around the spokes of the wheel, of the rear wheel, and strangled her.
Kathleen, Roberta?
Wow, after that. Well, I'd like to say it would be my book, but, I can't quite say that's the truth.
Oh, you have a good book.
Sure, it's a good book. It's hard for me to pick one out right now. My brain's sort of going, I don't know. One of the ones I really
I'll go for Webster's Dictionary. What the heck do we care?
Oh, boring. I love the words, but
Well, that's just
I'll take one that I really love, an author that I love. Her name is Margaret George, and she wrote the book Cleopatra and the lives and times of King Henry VIII and Mary, Queen of Scotland and Wales.
Yes, I
they're
think
like
I've
this.
read-
They're like this
yes.
thick. Magnificent, because she puts herself, instead of a history, she puts herself as the character.
really.
And this woman,
So she's writing it from first
yes,
person?
now, yes,
Interesting.
basically writing as first person. And it was like she lived there. She was that person, and she is the most history. She does history research for like 5-6 years.
Yeah.
I don't think she's been out with a
I
book.
read her Mary Queen of Scots. It was absolutely
Mary
wonderful.
Magdalene was the last one. Mary Magdalene.
Yep.
Because I read all 4 of her books, and my gosh, this woman does research that you found out things about Cleopatra. You found out things about Mary Magdalene. You found out things about Mary Queen of Scots, and then King Henry VIII was magnificent, and just one of the best writers I have ever read.
Well, I need to read her other 3 books then, because I really enjoyed Mary
Margaret
Queen of
George?
Scots. It was
Margaret
absolute-
George.
Yeah.
Yes, there's another one out there. Her last name is George, but it is not Margaret George, and I think she only has like 4 books. Cleopatra, I was taking BART at the time when I was commuting to San Francisco, and everybody and their brother had it. And they're like 800-900 pages, but once you start, you cannot put that book down.
You really can't. Yeah,
No,
it's amazing.
it's just amazing, her expression and the way that she just gets into things.
Describes things.
History
and
comes alive.
You feel,
Oh.
Yeah.
what she does is she brings you right there, so you feel like you're
Yeah.
right there. Right
And you
there,
know that
and
there's
it's
a
all
lot of
going
things
on.
that they couldn't have known, but the way that she writes them, you believe. You know,
Right.
she's done history, and I guess
Right.
through folklore and different things, she's learned these different aspects of that person's life.
And of course, in a historical book like that, or if
Yes.
it's partially fiction, I mean, there's parts, if she's making it conversational, obviously they don't know all of it.
Right.
So she's adding to it, but that doesn't mean
Yeah. But there's a lot of
the
things that were
bigger
documented.
picture. Right.
That
So
people
right.
don't know today or whatever. Anyway, we have to
the way
move
she
on.
puts it makes it real.
They're
There's a lot
telling
of
me.
ways to look up documentation, and then she does that.
Yes.
She goes into records, old records,
Oh,
and
she's got it all
travels, and she
documented
does all
in
this stuff,
her book.
this background
Yeah.
stuff. Yeah. So-
Okay, our next one, my dear.
Okay, our next one is cheating.
Oh yes. What is the only reason why you would forgive someone
Right.
if
What
they
would
cheated
be
on
the
you?
one exception
Okay.
that you would forgive someone for cheating?
Now, is that
Now,
read it?
What
read the
kind of
question
cheating?
again.
Are we talking
Well, the question
generic
is
cheating?
kinda-
Okay, read the question.
I think it's cheating. It's spouse
No,
cheating.
because I thought of cheating and eating. When I first heard cheating, I thought cheating on a diet.
Oh. Well,
Oh
that's-
well, then if that's the way you interpret it,
Well,
let's
and that's
go.
why I
the
was
way you
curious. I
interpret
think
it,
it's
that's
more-
great.
Well, then go for it.
I mean, I think that would
So-
be.
so-
yeah.
I think it's whatever you define cheating as. So
Yeah,
All right, you take the
exactly.
eating part, and then everybody can take cheating and what their definition might be.
Right.
Well, when I heard the cheating, that's what I thought, because I'm constantly cheating on what I self-imposed on my diet. You know, I am.
Okay, so then what is the only exception that you give yourself to cheat, and it's okay?
Probably sugary fruit. That's okay. Because I try
Sugary
to
fruit.
stay, keep my sugars down and keep my breads down.
Yeah.
But
Your
Eh,
So
carb,
raspberries are
carbs.
good.
oh yes,
Raspberries, blueberries.
Roberta, what would you think
Sugar ginger.
with your definition of cheating? or let's put you whatever avenue you're going to be taking with the word cheating, what would be the only exception that you find excusable?
Well, the thing that came to mind when I heard it was actually, and maybe it was because we had Luke here earlier and the sheriff was here, or one of the sheriff's department, was thinking about driving. And it's not necessarily cheating in that perspective, but, you know, the speed limit. The speed limit, we all sort of cheat on the speed limit, don't we?
Yeah.
And so the exception I give myself, and even though it may not be right, is, you know, safety first. So if it's safer to go a little bit faster than the speed limit, you know.
And it's funny because my husband and I were just discussing that, because often when I'm coming out of Mountain Ranch, and there's when you come onto the highway, there's a stop sign there, and I it's a Hollywood stop. I mean, I do the Hollywood stop. But this morning, there was a highway patrol coming the other way, so I didn't.
It's amazing how that shifts our perspective.
You know,
maybe it's not okay today.
It's not okay today. But if there's nobody on that highway, it's safety first. I totally agree.
Yeah.
You know, it's not, I mean, I don't drive 75 on these
No,
roads or,
no.
abuse it or anything, but I do notice that brought it to my to my attention this morning.
You don't creep out there.
And I thought about it.
You know, it was really funny. When I was a kid, my dad got a ticket. And where I lived in this little tiny community, there was just one street in and out, basically. And at the end of the street, over there was a service station, but there was, in the main street, there was a stop sign. And my dad would just coast because, it's coming home from work. So he got pulled over. And my dad said, well, I guess I did what they call a Hollywood stop. You barely tap the brakes.
Right.
So my dad says to the officer, how about if I go around the circle, come back again, I stop twice? He goes, no. My dad said, I'll stop twice next time. I'll stop, and then I'll put my brakes on. And the guy says, no, you know what, Frank, here's your ticket. So, and they laughed. I mean, but I imagine my dad got out of it. But he just said, no, that's not going to work.
My grandpa used to say, on Sundays, you don't have to stop.
That's right.
It was just something he used to
Well,
always
yeah,
say.
and so I think that there are those kind of things.
Okay, for the cheating thing. All right, I'm gonna be the dirty girl here and bring it up. Okay, so if your spouse or your better half cheats on you, is there any time where it could be considered it's forgivable?
Well, it has to be forgivable inevitably. I mean, I think you come to forgiveness because you have. I mean, you can't harbor that stuff.
Do you think?
But do you want to? I mean, the decision is are you going to stay with that person?
Right. All right. But do you think in this scenario? Okay, I just thought of this scenario. You have a spouse who is deathly ill. Okay, and I mean, not just for a week or two, but this is going on for many years, and do you hear about people that go outside the home because of they're taking care of the spouse and whatever? Yeah. Do you think a situation like that might be not justified, but excusable if someone wants to have a physical relationship?
I've known couples, actually one couple that I can think of, where the wife was dying cancer, long term, and she actually condoned a relationship that her husband had with someone else. Now, I don't know if I could be that big, but, I was really surprised, and I watched the whole thing. Transition, and when the spouse passed and the other two people ended up getting married and blah, blah, blah. Right. But it was discussed. It was open, honest, the whole process.
Well, I mean,
and this went on for 5 years. It wasn't just
that's in some ways. Then that's not even really cheating.
No.
Well,
I mean, it is. Yeah. It depends on your. Again,
it depends on your definition of cheating.
Yeah, because they were married. They were a married couple,
yeah.
And let's face it. Cheating is when one in a marriage or a relationship cheats on the other, but I don't know. It's a sticky wicket. Yeah. We got to pick 2 more questions, please.
So go ahead and roll the dice and
the dice. Oops.
Number 1.
Uno.
So I'll take that one. We have a free for all.
Okay, good.
Okay, and number 1. Okay. Is it acceptable for an older woman to date a much younger man. Absolutely. Why not?
Well, that is, here we go again.
Define much younger.
Yes.
Well, define much younger.
When you have to get up the next morning after a tryst and take him to McDonald's for a Happy
Oh,
Meal,
that's a little too young.
That is too young. We're going to take a short break. We'll be right back.
Just Between Us, a spontaneous, intuitive live television show with topics that are intended to inspire, delight, educate, and encourage.
Welcome
We
back
wanna get
to Just
into
Between
oppression of
Us. And
women.
Kathleen, our first topic is?
So, our first topic is it acceptable for an older woman to date a much younger man? It depends on how you define much.
Like I said, when you get up the next day and have to take him out for a Happy Meal and you have to drive.
Well, I had an incident when I was in graduate school where there was a student that kept trying to date me, and every time I looked at him, I saw my oldest son.
Oh, yeah, that's not a good thing.
And I just couldn't do it.
It's one thing to put the false teeth under the pillow, but not the tooth. Wait for the tooth fairy.
Oh, God.
Yeah,
I finally said to him, I said, I have a son about your age.
Did he kind of just back
And
away?
he said, that doesn't matter.
Oh.
I said, on and on and on. And I said, it just, I'm sorry. I said, but you're going to find somebody.
You want to pat him on the head at that point.
I wanted to, but he did.
I'll tell Santa you were a good boy this year. and he'll bring
within
you
a
something
year,
special.
because we were all in graduate, everybody was younger than me in graduate school in San Francisco, and within a year he found this great gal, and it was wonderful, and I watched, I thought it was just great, but he thought he was in love, but much younger. I mean, that was much younger. I was in my 40s, and he had to been 22 or something.
Oh, boy.
And that was difficult.
I have a friend who dated, I think she was in her 50s, and she dated a guy who was in his 30s.
Mhm.
And I still have a hard time with that big of
Well,
a
the
difference.
thing is that
I mean,
it's
I
like
can see
it's like
dating.
Demi Moore again and Susan Sarandon, whatever her name is, Saran Wrap, whatever it is. They you're talking 20, 30 years different. There's something. What do you have in common?
Yeah.
Well,
I
see,
can see
that's
dating.
the
If
tough
they want to
thing.
just have a sexual fling, go for it, But for a
I
long-term
don't even agree with
relationship,
that.
well,
Yeah.
I mean, if you're
I
single,
mean, people
you're
are going to
gonna
do what people are going to
You're
do.
going to go play,
but-
whatever. That's to me, that's fine.
But then how many times do
long-term
you see
relationship, I
the
just think
older
that's-
man with the younger woman, and everybody says, "Oh, she's a gold digger," or she makes him feel young, or he's going through the male change of life, or whatever. I guess I don't know. Maybe.
Do you notice how the negative connotation goes on the woman?
Yes.
Yeah.
yes.
I don't have.
I mean, if a
problem
woman
with
if a
it.
woman dates a younger man, it's her fault, and if a man dates a younger woman, it's her fault. I just kind of heard that.
Most women in Hollywood today that are single, a lot of them are dating younger men.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah,
And
that reason they don't have to take care of them if they're older.
yeah.
I mean,
Well,
quite
that
a
is
few
a
things.
built-in.
Plus, we're
but
better when
it
we're
depends
older.
on what their
And there's
motives
more.
are.
I mean, they're more active.
I mean,
you can
Ashton
do
Kutcher
things,
was
and-
definitely not a catch.
No.
Demi Moore.
Now she's dating somebody that's supposed to be younger than him. I think I think she's got a screw loose. I'll be honest with you. I just think she is searching. She is obsessed with weight and youth, and has spent hundreds and thousands of dollars to make herself look young and stuff. Why don't you just grow old gracefully? I mean, where do you see her on TV, in the movies, or doing anything?
She's not doing anything. Well, she's probably invested. She's probably invested in
True,
business.
but
'cause
still,
most of them are
just
now.
go and have fun and meet a gentleman. Even if he's 5 years younger. I mean, there's nothing wrong with somebody a little
I think
younger
5,
than
10
you.
years,
Yeah,
it's not
it's
that big of a
fine.
deal.
There's a lot of people.
I think it depends on the person, quite honestly, because if you, I'm thinking of people who are very, very bright, and there is such a limit, when you get down to where the limited shared interests are because of who you
might be
are
right.
and where your brain is. If you can find a connection there where you can't at your age range, why
not?
not? I mean,
Yeah. Well, that I do. I agree. And now it made me think of this couple that I ran into I met in Washington when I went to visit my brother a couple of years ago. And the man was in his 80s and his wife was, she had to have been 30. I don't think she's more than 35 years old. But he was a potter, and he had a potter's studio, an artist. He was an artist, and he had a studio and everything. But he didn't look a day over 50, and his wife ran the studio while he did the back.
But
and
see, they probably had a lot of. They probably had a lot.
They had a tremendous amount in common,
goes back to
and
what
they got
Kathy said,
along
too.
beautifully.
I mean, when he wants to play with Hot Wheels and you're getting hot flashes,
Right.
there's something wrong there. It's just not going to work. I just don't think it's going to be. I think it's one of those May-December romances, and then it's gone. And
well, what I don't agree with is these teachers that are picking up on their students. Now that
No,
I don't
that's wrong.
I think that's wrong.
that's
Because
abuse of power.
it is, and it's
Yes.
abuse of power. Yeah, absolutely. Because students look up to,
if
you know.
both adults are over, if they're 18 and over and they're both adults, then it's not for me to judge. I just don't know if I would be comfortable with somebody 10, 15 years younger than me.
Personally, I would not.
I don't think I would, because I don't think that we would have certain things in common, yes, but seeing how your sometimes your tastes change,
Your
and
interests change.
and your
Absolutely.
interests change, and they want to watch South Park and you want to watch something else or whatever. You have different, which is like almost in every relationship.
Maybe it's more of a. We all go through seasons, right?
Right.
And within that season, there's a range, and maybe it's like if the person you was younger than you are is within your same season, if you will,
Right.
but still maybe 15 years younger, but they're in that same place, where South Park versus, whatever the other one is, you're watching is the separation. That's too far different. But
Right.
if within that season, and meaning that the interests are the same, you're sort of at the same level
Right.
of intellect and compatibility, maybe that is okay. I mean, I don't know. I haven't been there.
We
so
have
I
to-
don't
we
really
have to-
know,
I
but
would-
it's an
I would do
interesting
this
But
thought.
is that going to last?
Yeah, we have to move on to our free-for-all, but I just feel if he wants to play with Hot Wheels and you getting
Yeah,
hot
well, that's-
flashes,
that's a little
you got a
bit-
little
It
problem.
depends on where the brains are,
Yeah,
though.
well,
really.
yeah.
And it always goes
The
back
brain
to
drives other
motivation.
things.
What's your motive?
Absolutely.
What's your motive? What's your intent for being in the relationship?
Absolutely.
You have to both examine that, and I think if you're both true, then
Catalina?
it'll work.
Your free-for-all.
Free for all. And Thanksgiving, we were down in Huntington Beach with one of our sons, and we met these folks that were invited by a friend of a friend from work, from one of our sons. And anyway, he worked for this company, a private company. They were going to Afghanistan and some of these countries that are war-torn and that have another country, a major world country, trying to vie for the power in these countries so that they can take possession of the country, basically. Control the countries, and it's a major country that's doing this. So what this private company does is they go in, they find out, they work with the mullahs. In particular, these people had just come back from Afghanistan, so we're going to talk about Afghanistan. They go into Afghanistan and they work with the mullahs, which are the head tribal leaders, and they find out what these people need to train them so they can get away from the opium poppy dependency and thus the whole gangster thing,
Right.
And they work with them. They help them build schools. They
How
help
long
them.
do they stay there?
Pardon?
How long do
They stay there for as long as is necessary.
Wow.
Yeah, they have crews, and these private companies are hired by our government, and
you
they
think-
go over there.
Do you think, Kathleen, not to interrupt you, but do you think that these people are really going to make headway when a lot of these people that are running these countries right now are
Yes.
basically just thugs?
Yes, I do, and the reason I do is because if you get the mullah, this is what he explained to me. He said, if you get the mullah to agree with you, the whole
Community is behind it.
and this is what they're doing. They specialize. This one particular company specializes in languages, and so everyone, they speak the language, and they train these people how to break off their ties from the Taliban and from this other
Al-Qaeda.
big country that's backing all this, right? And they train them how to make a living doing other things. They're not giving them; they're training them, and they're teaching them.
Do you think that that's why we are kind of not? I don't want to say a conflict, but that we walk a fine line and we teeter back and forth with Russia because Russia is backing a lot
Absolutely.
these
Many.
countries.
We have 3 world powers right now that are vying for basically total world power. We have 3 right now. The United States is looking at things from a democratic perspective, and we also have China, and we also have Russia. And I will say that there's some serious problems going on over there, and the motives are even worse.
I think they're the sleeping giant again. I think that a lot of people think that that China and Korea and all of these countries, because they're out there, and obviously Iran and in Afghanistan and all of those. But here's Russia again, the sleeping giant. And I don't.
Like
They've
Bosnia, it's like Bosnia.
Bosnia, right.
They were behind the Serbs in for that war there. When I was in Bosnia, my husband found a grenade in the river. He lifted up, thought he was a rock.
Yeah.
Oh, my
And all the bullet shells and everything we found over there were Russian.
Right.
So these were who were backing the Serbian war with Bosnia, and it wasn't successful, but they're starting it up again.
Yeah.
Well, I think
Because-
that's the danger that I see within the United States is that we aren't taking it. There's a large percentage of people that aren't taking
We're
the
taking it much
international
more
stress.
seriously than what we are
Well, I
led
hope
to
so.
believe.
I
And
hope we
this
are
was
because I
this
think
was
it
the
is a
thing that
danger.
made me feel really, really good because we're taking it under the rug, you might want to call it. We're taking it much more seriously than what we're taking it at.
What happens now before we have to move on? What happens now if the Middle East attacks Israel? Because Russia's behind the Middle East to attack
absolutely, and Russia
Israel.
is behind
And
Iran. And
Yes.
if Israel goes into and they get into an altercation with Iran,
we have to go with Israel.
Obviously we have to.
So here we go again.
That's right. That's
It's going to
right.
be tough. We have to pick 2 new topics, but that's very, very interesting.
It is fascinating.
to see how that's
It
done.
actually made me feel much more comfortable. Actually made me feel much
That
more
there
secure.
are these other
knowing
units
that
go-
these things are happening
Yeah.
behind the scenes.
But this is a private company,
And
not
There's
but there
other
are
things going on
many.
too. Like Rotary has 5 peace centers in the world where they actually train peace scholars each year, and those peace scholars, part of their scholarship to get these
So you
trainings
think
is to
people-
go back out into the war-torn areas and to provide
Okay.
peace building
We've got,
And that's what
we've
this
got a
is.
free-for-all, our next one, and our last topic.
And would you like to roll the dice?
Sure, and we got a 4 this
4.
time.
Okay. All right. Is age only a number? And number 4 is can your looks tell your age?
Aha. We're going to be right back and let you know.
Ooh.
Just Between Us, a spontaneous, intuitive live television show with topics that are intended to inspire, delight, educate, and encourage. Just Between Us.
Welcome back. I'm Susie from Volcano.
I'm Kathy.
I'm Kathleen from Mountain Ranch.
And I'm Roberta from Pioneer.
Okay, Catalina.
Okay, so we have, is age only a number? And number 4 is, can your looks tell your age? And I don't believe that.
No.
I don't believe that. I believe that it's a state of mind and genetics.
How many times have you seen someone and you say, oh my gosh, they look so young, and you find out they're like 15, 20 years older, and then you see somebody, you say, well, they've got to be my age. No, they're 20 years younger. So no, I don't think you can tell. I think that in years past, I think people aged a lot faster, and they went into the older looking attire and hairdos and whatever. I think people our age today, and I'm the oldest one here, I think that we like to kick it a little bit different. You know, we like that little zip.
Well, we're the baby
We're old, but we're
boomers.
not dead.
Well, I think too it has to do with your diet and lifestyle.
Absolutely.
You know, if
Yeah,
you're
definitely.
out in the sun and don't use sunscreen, and if you smoke, and if you don't
Right.
eat, I mean, all of that.
And I think
Exercise.
attitude has a huge impact on
Right.
that. I think people who are happier tend to
Happy heart.
It shows on their face. You
And,
know, it
and
does.
contentment.
Yeah.
Being thankful
It doesn't
for
mean
the little things
your
in
life is perfect. It
No.
doesn't mean you're the richest person. It's not about that. It's about how you attack life and respond to what your circumstances are. And I think
agree.
positive, you look at people and you go, oh, there's something shining in them. And I think it's that light that go, oh, they're young, you know.
When they walk in the room, they've got
Yeah.
that aura that you want to talk to them. You want to laugh with
Absolutely.
them. You want to find out what they're doing. You know, and you have a good warm feeling about that person, and it really makes it nice. And you're right, age is not. It's just the number.
Well, I think it goes
nothing-
the other way too.
Yeah.
As I get older, it's like I look at somebody and go, I have no idea how old are they. Are they 20 or are they 35? They still look the same age at some point. And I think there's,
Yeah.
even the younger kids, it's hard to tell these days
Well,
what
you know
age
what?
frame
It's funny because yesterday was my daughter's birthday, and she turned 45, and I thought, wow, she's getting old. And I went, wait a minute, I'm getting a lot older. And I thought, you know what? I feel inside 45. You know, I do my exercise every day. I eat right. I try to do whatever. When I look in the mirror, do I see an older woman? Of course I do. But I've embraced that. I've earned my crow's feet and my wrinkles. Things sag where they didn't before. And is that disturbing? Well, yeah, a little bit, because, you know, you're not as, firm and like whatever. But Spanx. You just get the old get them elastic things on. I'll tell you what, if I ever snagged myself on something, I'd ricochet all the way to Sutter Creek and back, like a rubber band, and pull me right back. But that's okay. You know, I mean, what the heck? You know, when they say what's hanging, I just say point. It all hangs. It's all hanging now. But you know what? I embrace that. I don't care. I have. My grandkids are healthy. My children, knock on wood, so far are healthy. My husband's doing okay, and he's healthy. Matter of fact, he's lost 50-something pounds. He looks fantastic.
Congratulations.
Diabetes is gone. He's doing a great job. Feels absolutely fantastic. And you know, like I said, age is just you go with the flow.
It's
And
a state of mind. I really
staying
believe that
active.
it's a state of mind,
Yeah.
I mean, if you feel good about yourself, you feel good about your life, that's going to show.
Absolutely.
It's going to show on your face.
So what do you think, Kath?
Oh, I think the same thing. I mean, I'm out there to live.
Absolutely.
God gave us life, not to sit and veg.
You know, if you can get up
Yeah.
every morning and you have a blood pressure and a heartbeat, the day is yours. You know,
The day
right?
is good.
You got it made in the shade. I
Now,
mean,
there's a Danish quote that said, God's gift to you is life. Your gift to God is how you choose to live that life.
Yeah.
and that's beautiful.
And I love one of my favorite quotes is, "This is the day the Lord hath made. Let us rejoice and be glad." And I think that's that same attitude. It's like you've been given this gift of this day. What are you going to do with
Absolutely.
it?
Every day's a gift. And I
Every
think,
day's a
as a
gift.
matter of fact, yesterday, my aunt, who her birthday would be Tuesday, she would be 99, passed away in her sleep. 98 years old. And boy, I'll tell you, what a beautiful life. And just to go in your sleep, you know.
Perfect.
That's the best way.
Yeah.
Yes, it is.
The bad thing is her daughter's going to get the birthday card that says, "Hope this is the best birthday ever."
Oh.
So I
Maybe
called
it
her.
is.
I said, "Lydia."
Well,
She
that's a
goes,
good
"Oh,
point.
don't worry about it. I'll get a good laugh out of it." She goes, "Mom had a beautiful life, and there was no quality of life for the last 6 years. So being embraced and taken home, what
Right.
better way?" Huh?
My grandmother was the same thing.
What a gift.
Yeah. She passed away in my arms, and she was
there you go.
asleep.
Yeah.
She was asleep, and it was a beautiful passing. It was one
Absolutely.
of the most
You know, I think that that's
beautiful
another thing with our
experiences.
generation. Don't you find that we embrace death differently than
We
people?
seem to be less
We
afraid
understand.
in general.
I was brought up not even to know about death, and
Right.
and so when
Scary.
the first death happened,
Yeah.
it was horrible,
Absolutely. You're
traumatizing to me. You know, my grandmother took me to the home where my uncle, we had my great uncle, was out during the last part and visited and went through that whole process until he passed away. I wasn't allowed to go to the funeral because I was only 5.
There you go. Okay, we have got our last free-for-all, and ladies, Kathy, you kick it off. Tell me what you're doing and what's going on with you, and what do you think's happening in Amador County?
Wow. Okay.
Okay, thank you, Kathy. Kathleen?
I'm actually still pretty jazzed about, we just had our first trip to Europe, and it was
fun.
wonderful. We rented a car, we drove 2,400 miles, visited 6 countries, and stayed in all the little towns. After 2 days, we canceled our reservations. And because we found that more fun. Just if we found someplace we liked,
just go for it.
We stayed.
We did the same. My husband's laughing, his smile on his face because we did the same thing. It was much more fun to do
if it's not
spontaneous.
Structured. Right.
Well, yeah, without that regiment. Because anyway, go ahead. I just had to say that because I agree.
What we did was we looked up our genealogy and saw where our forefathers had come from.
Fun.
Oh, really?
And we visited those towns.
Now, what is your background?
My father's side's German, from the Bavarian part of Germany.
Beautiful.
And then my mother's part was Alsace-Lorraine and Switzerland.
Oh, beautiful.
So, we went we went from Lorraine to Switzerland to Germany. And,
How fabulous.
And what was fun was, our name is Johann, his last name. Well, the family legend says that actually the name was Hochheim, an H instead of a Y, and came from Hochheim, Germany. So we couldn't find Hochheim, Germany, but we were going up the road and there was a sign that said Hochheim. So we're like, let's go. We went 750th Street Fair was going on.
Oh, wow.
And 750.
That's outside of our mindset almost.
Yes.
Wow.
And so what was fun, though, was we looked in the telephone book, no Johanns, no Hockheims, nothing even close. I looked at him and I said, okay, I don't know whoever came over here, but obviously he changed his name and he was running.
Yeah, no kidding.
But it was fun. But and then I'm excited about our county. Look at all the new businesses that come in the last year.
Yes.
It is, and our sales prices are going up in housing. I see a lot of positive, hopeful signs.
Right.
And
you're in real estate, so you have a background.
It's creeping up. It's starting to come back.
Yeah. So I'm going to.
We have we have no choice but to have things get better. What more can happen? Good gosh.
We don't want to say that.
Well,
we could be at war.
Let me retract my statement.
Things could be worse.
Roberta.
Well, I think
things can always be worse.
Things could always be worse. But I think that there is something really positive going on in terms of the attitude of the giving attitude. There's so
Luke
much
was talking
good
about that.
Yeah, Luke, from the sheriff's department, was talking about it earlier, and I see it. I'm involved in Rotary, and there's the Lions Club. There's so many other organizations,
and of course, this toy thing. Martha's behind this, and her daughter's helping out, and Letitia is coming back up.
Group.
Absolutely,
the Quilting Guild makes things for the community and gives them away or auctions.
Our family has done
every
that
group
this year
that
too.
you know of is contributing in some way and giving back to the community, and I think that's what's so beautiful and awesome about
I do too.
it.
My daughter called me,
thing.
and because we usually, we have such a big family that we pick a name, and everybody buys something really nice for that person. This year, everybody is donating to families that don't have anything.
That's great.
We are not exchanging.
Good.
At all.
Good for you.
Nothing.
Good for you.
Just the little ones are going to have presents this
That's
year.
what we've been doing. We give,
and everybody agreed to it. All the kids.
Yeah.
It was like, okay.
I've cut out Christmas cards and stuff and used that money, Christmas cards and stamps that I normally would spend, and give it to a charity. Plus, I do other charities in the toy drive, which is important because there's nothing better to know that on Christmas Eve or Christmas morning, there's a kid out there that's going to open up a package that you bought and make them happy. We're going to take a short break, come back and hit you up with our hot topic.
Just Between Us is spontaneous, intuitive, live television show with topics that are intended to inspire, delight, educate, and encourage. Between Us.
And Madonna is also.
Welcome back. Ladies, you ready for a hot topic?
Absolutely.
Okay. Do you think Congress will be able to come to an agreement about the fiscal cliff before the end of the year?
No.
They better.
I think they are going to come up with something that just pushes it out a little further.
I do too. I agree. I
Yeah.
think that's
I
what
don't
they're
think
Well, I
they're
don't.
going to really
but,
solve
but
it.
they
Another
really can't
Band-Aid.
put this off, can they? I mean, we're at the point now where
Yes, they
you
can
can't
put
turn
it
it
off.
around. I mean,
They'll
you
figure
can't put
a
it
way.
off.
I don't know. The thing that scares me is the Debt Forgiveness Act.
Oh, that scares
Yeah,
me to
That scares
death.
me to death because
that the
that's
president wants to have full reign.
well,
You
no, that it is going to expire the end of the month, end of December.
Yeah, but I think it's even
Yeah.
worse that the president is, what he's proposing is that that there is no debt limit, that he has just the ability to keep
Oh.
raising
No, I'm
the
talking
rate.
about two different things.
I know, I'm sorry,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
interpreted what you initially said wrong, but you're
This-
right.
This is about the people who were foreclosed on
Right.
or, short sold, that they would be responsible for the debt. That
Oh.
was difference between what they were foreclosed on and what they owed on the
Right.
house.
Mhm.
Now, there's a Debt Forgiveness Act now that says they don't have to pay that back.
Right.
It expires at the end of December.
Not only that,
So-
there's a lot of kids that have student
wow. I
loans.
wasn't I was
A lot of kids at student loans. They say about
Yeah.
over half of them are not making good on their student loans. We're losing
Yeah, but you know what happens?
millions
It goes,
and millions and millions.
It
on
goes
that.
right to the cosigner,
Oh, absolutely.
and then the cosigner's responsible.
Responsible. But a lot of them are not forking up.
Well, yeah, and what happens when it goes to
So I'm really
I don't
interested
know.
to hear
then
more about
they-
this.
It just passes on to the next
Okay.
generation.
So
Yeah.
Kathy, what you're saying is that at the end of the year, people that have had to walk away from their homes or short sale, that have this, that who's ever taken over this debt,
Right.
it will be forgiven.
Up to the end of this year.
Okay.
And then what
now,
happens
if
then?
they are, so if they have not closed on their house, but they're in the process of foreclosure
Mhm.
or notice of default
Right.
or a short sale, and it goes beyond the into
31st.
2031st, they can still be foreclosed on, but they'll be responsible for that debt unless that act is extended.
Oh, that's interesting.
Oh, I
That's
see.
tied
Okay.
to this
Okay.
fiscal cliff.
That is
Fiscal.
interesting.
Okay.
I'll be
So,
darned.
and I literally woke up in a sweat one night. Just scared
Realizing
to death.
what that
It's like I have got clients out there who are in that situation, and I can't help them. It just like, what can I do? I just
Yeah, there's
Oh,
a
that's
tremendous
tough.
amount.
yeah.
I have a woman. I just got into it, and I'm doing something new, which I'll tell you about after. But this one woman, she's making $37,000 a month now. She calls what you're talking about here. They were in foreclosure last January. She and her husband. They have a business. He works for a company down there in Southern California. They're in like Costa Mesa or something. Anyway, she calls it economical cancer that we are in a state of, and trying to find ways to pull out of it. And what it is opening your own businesses and people, stepping up and opening their own businesses and going to work for themselves and staying motivated and staying positive. But I had no idea that this was going on.
Do
that
you
this
see,
tax-
Kathy, since now the market is moving slowly, but it's moving in a positive direction for right now. Do you see more foreclosures or short sales coming up? Do you think that
I don't see it, but that doesn't mean that it's not going to happen, because what has happened is the banks have stalled foreclosures so that they didn't flood the market
right.
and depress the market further.
Mhm.
So it'll be real interesting if they would put everything on the market that they could put on the market. They're called shadow properties.
okay?
All right, that could change the whole complexity, and it could stop the increase.
Right.
But I was at a state board meeting, and they tried to pass a law saying that would take it to Congress where people had to, it's called mark-to-market, say that your house is worth, you have a mortgage of $300,000.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and it's only worth $150,000.
Mm-hmm.
As long as that's on their book and they don't foreclose at $300,000, they can show it as a $300,000 asset, so their books look better. Now, if they would go to the market price and devalue it to $150,000, the bank may fail. So
Wow.
that's your dilemma there. Do we want just big banks? Do we want just 2 or 3 big banks or do we want our local banks? So that way we backed off and said, hey, we're going to have to let them do, they're bankers. We
Yeah.
can't be bankers.
Right.
You know,
Well,
Because we
I
need
was
the
in
little banks. We can't.
Yeah.
We
have
have to have that.
being
yeah.
in the banking business for 20 years that I was, I saw. I'm going to go back many years, and like in the 90s, I saw this trend moving. We are going to probably someday just have 10 major banks. We're probably going to move towards that eventually. I want my bank here, and I don't want nobody to come in and but we
Yeah.
have no control. We have to take a short break. We'll be right back. That's a bet.
You're watching Amador County's #1 news and sports leader, TSPN.
And now back to Just Between Us.
Blame the taxpayer.
Welcome back. If you want to get a hold of us, we're at 223-4877, or you can fax us at 223-4866, or you can email us at bookme@tspntv.com. And go on YouTube. We're also on YouTube, so check us out there. Kathy, I hope the real estate starts moving and grooving like it should.
it's doing it.
I
It's
do.
coming.
I think that'll be a great start to changing the mindset and putting some positive perspective back into and hope
It really
back into
will.
the
And
I think
Roberta,
that would
thank you
really
for all the work
uplift
that you
people
do
to
in the
know that their
Rotary
homes
and all
they
of
have
that.
value
That's
again
very
in their
nice.
homes.
Miss
because,
Kathleen,
you know,
that's very interesting about what I want you to come, when next time you come back, I want to explore this some more, because I think that we have gotten, we're focused in the Middle East, and I think we need to move over to the good old USSR, as it used to be known. I think Russia is the sleeping giant again. I don't think it's ever gone away.
I don't think it ever did go away, because
No.
I think there was always under the scenes,
Yep.
you know, there was behind the scenes, or whatever you want to call it, there was already a regime in place that was ready
Yeah.
to come in, and they're now doing exactly what they intended on doing. And they've become powerful enough now, but it's
Well, and
through.
as we get
we're
weaker,
talking
too.
gangster money. This is
Yeah.
all through their money is gained through prostitution, drugs. They are infiltrating this country, and they are cooperating with the Taliban to infiltrate this country. With, I mean, we have more heroin in this country right now than you can even imagine.
Yeah, I think that, unfortunately, I think that a lot of people have just pulled the pillow over their head, and they just don't think it's going on here. And unfortunately, it's
Well-
getting stronger, and
it
it's
is.
going to get a lot worse. I want to thank everybody for being with us today, and please buy local and have a good time locally. Be careful in the rain. Ladies, thank you so much. Kathy, it was a pleasure seeing you again. Kathleen, exciting as always. And Roberta, my love, my neighbor, I appreciate you coming down the hill. We got a trek, but coming down that
It's
hill.
worth it, though.
But it's
I'm
worth
glad
it.
you did.
You bet.
Well, it's worth it living up there, too.
It
Oh,
is.
yeah,
It
it's
is.
beautiful
Well,
up there.
there's no
Gorgeous
place
up
like
there.
Amador County,
Yeah,
right?
I love Amador County.
You're going to be here all the time. We'll
I'm
see you
gonna
next
be here all
week.
the time.
Stay with us, and we'll be back right here next week.
Okay.